The file was yellowed and brittle, its edges curled like dried leaves, but the date at the top was today. And the name scrawled across the bottom in dark ink didn't belong to anyone living. It belonged to a patient who'd been dead for 50 years. I was supposed to be alone in the asylum's old records room. The others hated this part of the volunteer work dust, mold, and the heavy stench of paper that had been locked away for decades. I didn't mind. There was something calming about the quiet rows of filing cabinets, the way the overhead bulbs hummed faintly, casting their sickly pale light across the stacks. Still, there was always a weight to the air, as if the walls remembered what they'd seen. That afternoon, I had been going through a drawer labeled Asterisk Discharge Records, 1930 to 1960. Asterisk, I remember pulling out the folder that looked oddly newer than the rest. The paper inside should have been brown and cracking. Instead, it was stark white, crisp, smelling faintly of ink that couldn't have been more than a day old. I frowned. The date printed at the top, today's date, made my stomach tighten. I read the name, asterisk, asterisk, Elias Wren, asterisk, asterisk. The name was familiar. Too familiar. I'd seen it before while cataloging patient death reports last month. I even remembered the note scrawled at the bottom, asterisk, died in seclusion room, 1954. Asterisk, I stared at the discharge paper, my hand trembling. It was signed in elegant cursive, smooth and deliberate. Asterisk Elias Wren, asterisk. I whispered the name out loud, almost to test reality. That was when I heard it, the faint shuffle of feet in the hallway outside. I froze. No one else was scheduled in this wing. The sound was slow, dragging, like slippers against concrete. My first thought was another volunteer, but the air carried something else, a faint odor, sour and metallic, like rusted iron and old sweat. I set the paper down and stepped toward the door, straining to hear. The footsteps stopped the moment I reached the threshold. The silence pressed in on me, thick and unnatural. My heart pounded against my ribs as I turned back toward the filing cabinet. The paper was gone. The folder lay open, empty, as if it had never been there. I rifled through the stack, panic rising in my throat, but it had vanished. My fingers shook so badly I could barely close the drawer. Then the lights flickered. Just once, quick enough to make me doubt it happened, but when they steadied, I saw something new. The discharge paper was back. Only now, it wasn't on the cabinet. It was sitting neatly on the floor in the middle of the room, as if someone had placed it there for me to see. I didn't move. My body screamed to run, but my legs locked stiff. The air turned colder, prickling against my skin. I could see the faint rise of my breath in the flickering light. I crouched slowly and picked it up again. Same date, same signature. But this time, something had been added. A note beneath the signature in smaller, almost hurried writing. Asterisk, room 3 is unlocked. Asterisk, my throat went dry. I knew that room. Everyone did. Room 3 had been sealed since the asylum shut down. The lock rusted solid. The stories whispered among the staff claimed it was where Elias Wren had died. I told myself I wouldn't check. I told myself I'd put the paper back, lock the cabinet, and leave. But curiosity, the kind that gnaws until it hurts, dragged me toward that hallway. The corridor was colder than the records room. My footsteps echoed too loudly against the cracked tile, and with every step I expected to hear another pair following close behind. When I reached room 3, I saw the impossible. The lock wasn't rusted shut. It was hanging loose, as if it had just been broken. I stood there, hand trembling above the knob, my breath shallow. I told myself I'd only look, just to prove it was nothing, but when I pushed the door open, the smell hit me first. Stale air, thick with mildew and something sour, like a blanket that had never been washed. The room was empty, or it should have been. The cot in the corner was stripped bare, but the mattress sagged with the deep impression of someone lying there, someone still lying there. The air pressed heavy around it, the outline of a body clear, even in the weak light. And then, from the far side of the room, came a whisper. Finally, the word was faint, breathless, but close enough that I felt it against my ear. I spun, every nerve in my body sparking, but the doorway behind me was empty. When I looked back at the cot, the impression was gone. The mattress was smooth, untouched. But on the floor, right where I stood, the discharge paper waited again. Only now, the signature wasn't Elias Wren, it was mine. The ink glistened wet, as though it had just been signed. I dropped it, bolted from the room, and didn't stop running until I was outside, the cold night air burning my lungs. I told the supervisor I was done volunteering, that I'd never set foot in that building again, but here's the part I can't explain. 2 nights later, a plain white envelope appeared in my mailbox. Inside was a single paper white, crisp, smelling faintly of fresh ink. My own discharge notice and the date at the top. Tomorrow,